Hi, this is Omar at Top 5 eBikes, and this is the 200 plus mile review of the Rad Power Bikes RadWagon 4. We're really close to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to all the current subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so if you're interested in e-bike related content. This isn't my first rodeo when it comes to cargo bikes or even cargo e-bike videos. The RadWagon is actually my third cargo bike that I've owned, and this is my third video on cargo e-bikes. In the first video that I made on cargo e-bikes, I walked you through the process in deciding which cargo e-bike I wanted to buy. Spoiler alert, I actually picked the Eunorau cargo bike, and in my second video, I actually talked about how that was a huge mistake and that I should have actually bought the RadWagon. So here we are after riding this current RadWagon for about 150 miles and a loaner that I got for 75 miles that I wanted to share my thoughts on what I consider hands down the best affordable cargo e-bike. So in this review, first I want to spend some time going over the specs of the RadWagon. Then we're going to talk about my experience riding this e-bike for over 200 miles now. And finally, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this great cargo e-bike. So now let's go over the specs of the Rad Power Bikes RadWagon 4. It's $1,999 and it comes in three different colors: black, white, and orange. It has a 750 watt geared hub motor that actually has twice the torque of the older RadWagon models. The battery is a 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery, so it's 672 watt hours. And you can get up to 45 miles of range. This is according to Rad Power Bikes. Later in the video, we'll talk about my experiences with the battery. The carrying capacity of this e-bike on its rear rack, it's 120 pounds, and it has actually a total of 350 that you could carry on this e-bike. It has a low standover height of 23.5 inches, and that's actually pretty key for people that are a little bit shorter in height that are worried about whether this frame is too big. One of the updates that was made to this bike was the type of tires that it uses. It currently uses 22-inch tires that are 3 inches wide. And we'll talk about in the ride section of this video how that actually matters and how that translates into a pretty comfortable ride. Also, you have a backlit LCD. And I did want to mention a couple components that have been shipped out with a more recent delivery. So the brakes, the derailleur, and the shifter. So this bike actually came with the radius brakes. The Rad site shows Tektro brakes. The derailleur was a Microshift Derailleur, and the Rad website shows a Shimano Acera. So these two things, I think, again, I wasn't expecting these when they got delivered, and we'll talk about it later on in the video what I think, what my thoughts are about these changes that were made. This bike also comes with an adjustable handlebar, a telescoping seat post, and a deflopilator, which I can't even pronounce. But we'll talk about how that's actually important later on in this video. Now let's talk about my time riding this cargo e-bike. I want to touch on 5 different topics: comfort, ease in carrying weight, speed, range, and the component switcheroo. So let's start off with comfort and riding. Some of the features in this newest version of the RadWagon 4 make this cargo e-bike a very comfortable ride. Mind you, I've ridden the Yuba Mundo, the Eunorau cargo bike, the RadWagon 3, and now this RadWagon 4. The tires, the handlebar options, and the seat options make this very customizable for your own comfort. Let me start off with the tires. The smaller and thicker tires give you a lower center of gravity, and I'm not just reading what the Rad site says. When my oldest daughter shifts on the RadWagon, meaning that she moves around, I can feel the shift less on this bike than on other cargo bikes I've ridden. And part of it is because of the tires. I love the adjustable stem. I've said this on many other videos, and I mentioned this, that if your bike doesn't come with an adjustable stem, then you should buy it. So I just love that it comes with it. It's so easy to adjust the handlebars so you can have a comfortable ride. Also the seat, because it can be adjusted in 2 different areas. So all of these updates together have translated into a more comfortable experience for riders. One final note on comfort is that I wanted to mention that the lower frame size of this bike allows for riders of lower heights to be able to dismount and stand safely, which is super important on a cargo e-bike. And lastly, I'll get back to the deflopilator, which I mentioned earlier in the specs. And that's because not all cargo bikes come with it. One that comes to mind is a KBO Ranger. But this little spring keeps your front wheel from flopping around, get it, the flopilator, when you're using the kickstand. And trust me, you want this small feature on your cargo bike. Now let's talk about carrying kids or cargo on this e-bike. First of all, it has a heavy duty stand, which was my main issue with the Eunorau bike that I own. And if you go back to that video, you can find out that it actually broke off. With the RadWagon, I 100% trust the stand. Although, as always, you shouldn't leave your kids unattended. I do trust the stand more so than I did with the Eunorau. I've been riding with my two girls, and this e-bike was made for that exactly. I used two Yep Maxis, which the rack on this e-bike was built for these type of seats. So putting on these bike seats is pretty easy. So I could easily take off the seats, put them back on. I could customize the rack really easily for me. So sometimes I ride with one of my daughters, sometimes with both, and it's nice to take off one of the car seats, and then I could use the space to carry cargo. You could also easily ride with older kids or just carry cargo if that's what you want to do. There are many attachments that you can buy, some made by Rad, some on Amazon, so you could use that to customize your RadWagon. For me, riding with my two girls is the reason why I love this e-bike, because I can ride with them both and I can do it safely. Now let's talk about speed. Now this isn't a topic that should be super important on a cargo bike, but I did want to talk about it because you can edit the settings to go faster. Since I mainly use this e-bike with my daughters, I actually don't want to ride 20 miles per hour or even faster, but some may want to do this. The default settings on this e-bike allow you to ride at a max of 20 miles per hour if you only use throttle, and that won't change with the settings, but what can change is the highest speed for pedal assist levels. So you're actually able to edit the settings to go to a max of 40 kilometers per hour, which is around 24, 25 miles per hour. Again, riding at 14 to 16 miles per hour seems to be the normal speed on the RadWagon, so I'm perfectly fine with the default settings of this e-bike because I don't need this to be a speed demon. Now let's talk about the range. This seems to be super important, and especially on this bike. Rad Power Bikes says that this bike can go up to 45 miles. Now we all know that the rating is based on perfect conditions, the lowest pedal assist level, and a rider with low weight. I didn't do a range test, and if people are interested in this, I could potentially do this. But I did ride the loaner RadWagon 4, which I rode for around 75 miles. And that particular e-bike I rode twice for 22 miles each way. Now, on both of those rides, I was riding pedal assist level 2 and 3 while using the throttle sparingly. I think I could have gotten around 30 miles out of that battery, and I think that's probably the real life range of this battery. And I also think that if I was going throttle only, I'd probably get 10 to 15 miles. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the component switcheroo. I've seen comments on Reddit and other platforms where people are talking about that the RadWagon was actually delivered with different components that were stated on the site. Same happened to me. I got this RadWagon around December. And just to give you a list of the items again, the shifter was supposed to be a Shimano thumb shifter, and I got a Microshift trigger shifter. And I personally love the trigger shifter better, so I think that in this case, this switch was better for me. And it's just better quality, I think, and it's easier to shift the trigger shifter than it is the gray, ugly thumb shifter that should have come with this bike. Now, when it comes to the derailleur, that was supposed to be a Shimano Acera, and we got a Microshift. Now, that one, I think if you search about these derailleurs, the Shimano Acera is a step above. Now, I don't tend to shift a lot on the RadWagon, so it hasn't been something that I've really noticed. So I think for me, it's almost like it doesn't matter which shifter or derailleur I have. And then lastly, we come to the brakes. It should have come with Tektro brakes. I got the radius brakes. I do notice that the stopping power isn't as good on the radius brakes. It's definitely sufficient. I also think that going into getting this bike, I thought that I might want to get hydraulic brakes and upgrade to hydraulic brakes or upgrade to one of these other options that has higher stopping power. So that's something that I may do in the future, but I think out of all the changes that they made, the brakes are probably the one where it would have been nice to have Tektro. I think Rad, just like all other bike companies, is having issues and having to use different components because the companies can't actually fulfill on the orders. Like I said, a couple of these are considered the same quality. I'm perfectly fine with these changes and don't know if the recent deliveries are being made with these same type of components. So now that we talked about the specs and our riding experience, let me give you my final thoughts. Here's the punchline. 100% the Rad Wagon 4 by Rad Power Bikes is the best affordable cargo e-bike out there. But I want to mention why this is the case and also mention the things that I don't like about the Rad Wagon. I'm going to start off with the things that I don't like about this e-bike. So here's my list of negatives. Replacement tires is number one because the size is not a common one. So do yourself a favor, and if you end up buying this e-bike, buy 1 or 2 extra tires when you actually order your e-bike. The second thing I don't like is the lack of a suspension, although that's not typical that you would get a suspension in a $2,000 cargo e-bike. But, if you're going to ride on rougher trails or uneven roads, you'll feel not having a suspension. The third one is the lack of hydraulic brakes, which I think Rad could have done within this price range, given that the Blix Packa Genie includes them for the same price point. And my final last negative is the fact that the battery is an okay size, but you can't actually add a dual battery. And a bike like the Blix Packa gives you the option of a dual battery. So now let's talk about the things that I do like. The first thing is that it's affordable. Even though it's $2,000 for a cargo e-bike, this is actually affordable because the next tier of e-bikes would actually be around $5,000 or $6,000 for the Turn GSDs of the world and those that are mid-drive e-bikes. So it is affordable at $2,000. The second one is that it's the comfort of the e-bike due to the recent upgrades like the tires, the adjustable stem, and then the seat posts. The third thing is having a sturdy kickstand. I mentioned in a previous video that was my issue with the Eunorau. So it was nice to have a big, sturdy kickstand that I trust. The fourth one is that it's customizable and you can actually fit 2 Yep Maxis, which is not the case with all cargo e-bikes. And then lastly, I would say that it's because it's a Rad Power Bikes. So you have the backing of the biggest and the best e-bike company around right now. This isn't a comparison video, but I think the only cargo e-bike that potentially comes close to the Rad Wagon is a Blix Packa Genie, and that's for 2 main reasons. One, that it comes with hydraulic brakes for the same price as a Rad Wagon, and 2, there's an option for a dual battery. But I'm still confident in crowning the Rad Wagon as the best cargo e-bike that's in around $2,000. Keep in mind, if you wanted to spend $5,000 or $6,000, you'd have a host of options, most of it mid-drive, with a bunch more features than the Rad Wagon or the Blix Packa. Just like any e-bike, there are some negatives about this e-bike, but the positives way outweigh the negatives. The Rad Wagon 4 is affordable because it's $2,000. It's comfortable to ride with its smaller, wider tires and adjustable seat and handlebars. It's safe for your precious cargo with a sturdy kickstand. It's customizable since you're able to add a host of accessories, including 2 Yep Maxis, and it's made by the most trusted name in affordable e-bikes, Rad Power Bikes. Thank you for watching, and let us know if you have any questions or comments.